Hi everyone! We're all growing our garden grocery stores for the fresh, tasty veggies, for the relaxation, for the enjoyment, but also to save money on our food bill every week. Now, what are you doing with your abundance? Are you letting any of it go to waste? I have an abundance of basil right now. I'm going to show you what I do with it. Don't click away. Now, many of you asked for this video and we're bringing it to you today. We're gonna harvest basil, then make a really easy pesto so that you can enjoy your basil even when it's too cold to grow it outside. Now, I have tons of basil in the garden right now. It smells absolutely amazing. And you wanna harvest your basil before it goes to flower. Once it goes to flower, then it starts going to seed. The flavor does change on the leaves, becomes just a little bit bitter. So grab it before it goes to flower. And what I like to do is harvest it about once a week or so it doesn't get so tall and lanky. Now, these ones are overdue for harvesting because we were out of town and they didn't all get harvested then. So you just prune it off right down here above a set of leaves. And that way it prevents it from flowering and it keeps your basil leaves nice and tasty. Now here's one that is starting to flower. I'll probably just let this one flower. I do like to let a few of my plants flower because the bees absolutely love the flowers and it brings them in like crazy. So let's head down to the raised bed where I have a ton more basil growing and we'll fill this harvest basket up. Now, basil is a warm weather herb. It's very cold sensitive. So if you're expecting a frost or even expecting temperatures in the 40s or so, you definitely want to harvest your basil and make your pesto so you can enjoy it all winter long. Now, here in the raised bed, there's a ton of basil growing. And I actually need to make room to plant some more cool weather veggies. So it's a really, really good time to harvest. Before I harvest from this plant, let me show you this plant over here that has already started flowering, and this will be bringing in the bees like crazy. You can also save your basil seeds. There's little teeny tiny seed pods in here. So once the flowers completely dry up on your basil plant, you can harvest your seeds just by going like this. And once they're all dry, you'll see tons of little teeny tiny black seeds. Sometimes I like to just toss these right back in the garden bed so they come up again next year. Now, the great thing about basil is the more you harvest it, the more you prune it, the more it's going to grow. So what happens when you're pruning down here, right above a set of leaves, is that your basil will grow new leaves right from the place where you cut. So if you want a ton of basil, you want to come out and harvest it about once a week or so. That way you'll have an endless supply. That is until it gets too cold for it. It's also a very, very aromatic herb. So my hands smell absolutely amazing right now. Do you want to smell it? Well, there's plenty more basil to harvest, but my harvest basket is full. So we're going to head up and make our basil. I also grab a couple California Wonder peppers because this is what we're going to use to do the taste test. Let's go on up. Garden Fresh pesto is so easy to make. You only need 7 ingredients. First, we've got the star of the show, the basil. Then we've got some fresh grated Parmesan cheese. I like to get a block of Parmesan and grate it fresh. So flavorful, it makes all the difference in the world. You're also gonna need some nuts of some kind. Now, a lot of people use pine nuts, but they're very expensive. I've just got some walnuts here. You can also use almonds if you'd like to. Make it to your taste. We've got some Garden Fresh garlic here. Grew it right here in my own garden, so it's really fun to use all the garden ingredients. We've got some sea salt here. You gotta have the sea salt. I like a nice coarse sea salt. It's got a great flavor. Of course, the fresh ground pepper and some extra virgin olive oil. Now this is just from Trader Joe's. If you can get a really high quality olive oil, all that much better. So first what I'm gonna do is get my basil leaves all ready to roll. They've been washed. And what I'm gonna do is just get about 4 cups of basil leaves here in my measuring cup. And you wanna pack your leaves really, really tight because you need tons of basil for all that Garden Fresh flavor. So I'm just picking the leaves off the plants, packing them in here. Now, a little tip for making sure that your basil doesn't have any creepy crawlies on it is put it in a sink full of water, of course, before you're doing all this, and add maybe a couple tablespoons of vinegar in there. Let it sit for about 10 minutes or so. That'll get it nice and clean and kill any of the little bugs that are lurking around your basil. So I'm just packing this 4-cup measuring cup full of basil. You can see it does take quite a few leaves. but that's okay. You're gonna have garden fresh flavor. And adjust this recipe to however much pesto you want to make. This recipe is going to make, I'm going to say around 3 cups or so. Camera guy, are you smelling this?
I am.
Oh,
It smells fabulous, and I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, well, we're going to try some at the end of the video here. So don't click away, guys. The taste test is coming up soon. Now, the cool thing about basil too is if you're coming into the wintertime, you can't grow it outside. What you can do is propagate it. So here I've got some actually propagating on my windowsill inside. I just took a couple of cuttings like this, put it in a jar of water, add a few drops of the Vermistera Vitality, and it grows roots. And then you can plant it out to have it for your indoor garden. So right here, I've got one that I rooted and now is growing here in my little CaliKim Smart Pot. Well, I've got just about all of my leaves picked off my basil plants, and it's amazing how this huge basket of basil packed down to just 4 cups. Now, just a little note, I am just using the leaves, not the tough stems, because then that would make your pesto bitter. Okay, I think we're ready to throw some into the blender. This is about 1.5 cups of walnuts. And then I'm going to throw in my garlic. Now, we don't like a ton of heavy garlic flavor. I don't like big chunks of garlic in my pesto. So I'm actually gonna just put 2 cloves of garlic in here and run it through a mincer. Now, if you like a heavier garlic flavor, you definitely wanna add that much more, but keep in mind, your homegrown garlic is a lot more potent than store-bought. So you might wanna just do it to taste on that. And then I'm gonna give this a whirl in the blender here. You just kind of want the nuts coarsely chopped. Next up is to add the salt, pepper, and the basil. You're gonna wanna add about 1 teaspoon of salt. And I don't usually measure, I just kind of throw it in and then do it to taste. And then several little grinds with your pepper grinder, probably about maybe 1/4 teaspoon so of fresh ground pepper. And then the star of the show goes in, the basil. Gonna get my last few little basil leaves in the blender here. And then what I'm gonna do is blend it up, and while I'm blending, I'm gonna be scraping the sides of the blender, pouring some olive oil on the top so that it all gets combined here. Now this is where a food processor is a lot easier if you have one of those, because you can a lot more easily scrape the sides and blend it up than you can here in this blender. So let's go ahead and get it rolling, and we'll pour in some olive oil as we blend. Our ingredients are blended up nice and smooth, but there is one more final ingredient that we need to add. Oh my gosh, this takes it to a whole nother level, cheese. So I like to add extra cheese because I love Parmesan cheese, so I actually have about 2 cups here. But again, add it to taste. We're just gonna throw this whole bowl in there because you can't go wrong with tons and tons of Parmesan in your basil. So let's blend this up, and then we're just about ready for that taste test, Jerry.
Oh, I can't wait.
Me neither. So you notice I'm adding olive oil throughout the blending process just to get things moving. It's a little bit thick right now, so adding a little bit more and then scraping the sides will really help finish this pesto off. Our pesto is nice and smooth here from blending it up. And now what I'm gonna do is pour it into the bowl, and we're gonna taste it. Oh my gosh, look at that.
Oh, that does look really good.
Garden fresh goodness.
And I volunteer to sample.
All right. And I think we probably end up putting maybe a 1.5 cups or so of olive oil in there. Ready for the taste test, Jerry?
I've been ready.
We've been smelling this the whole time here. Now, super easy ways to eat pesto are just dip your fresh vegetables in it. These are peppers right from the garden, the California Wonder peppers. Or you can use like crackers. It's great on zoodles, zucchini noodles.
That is so fresh.
So much flavor in every single bite.
Incredible.
Can you taste that cheese in there too? The Parmesan? So good.
I think so.
It's a little bit of a close-up there.
I'm double dipping, sorry.
Now if you want, you can also add a little bit of lemon juice to your pesto so it doesn't get brown. But let's talk about how we can preserve it so we can grow it all winter long. Now if you can't make all the pesto you use fresh, you definitely want to freeze it for later use. And a super, super easy way to do this is just to freeze it right in ice cube trays. And then once they're frozen, you can put them into a freezer bag and it'll last for several months in your freezer that way. Then you can just pull out exactly what you need. But fresh pesto is also delicious on chicken, on fish, all kinds of ways you can use it. So we'll pop these in the freezer, and once they've been in the freezer overnight, they're nice and solid. What you want to do is take your freezer bag, put your ice cube tray in your freezer bag, pop your ice cubes out. They freeze individually, and you do want to get all the air out of your freezer bag before you store it in your freezer. A little trick for this, you guys might remember this from years and years ago, is the straw trick. So close your Ziploc bag around your straw. This way you don't have to get like a vacuum sealer. We're all about keeping it quick, simple, and inexpensive. So you've got all your air sucked out, your own little vacuum sealer without having to buy one, and your pesto will last a lot longer in the freezer that way. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be making your own garden fresh pesto so none of your basil in your garden grocery store goes to waste. Now, if you don't have any basil growing in your garden, head over and grab one of my indoor garden seed collections at CaliKimGardenHome.com. You get a free seed packet with every order, and this way you can grow basil indoors all winter long when it's too cold to grow it outside.
And don't forget to click on subscribe and turn on your notifications. This way you get notified when we upload a new video and you won't miss a thing.
We're excited to see you on the next video.
Yep.
Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.